Welcome back to Transmission on Bent TV. I'm Sammy Cameron, and today we're talking about changing your ID. Joining me today are Sally, Robyn and Dale. Thank you for joining us today. Having the correct identification is essential to being able to live in modern society. So we wanted to start talking about how to go about officially changing your name in Victoria. How do you go about changing your name?
Basically, rock up to birth, deaths and marriages in the state that you're in, and they can probably liaise with the state you're born in and fill out a form and pay a fee and get documents.
And you have to provide some identification? Is it really that easy?
Yeah.
Fill in a form?
Yeah.
With your old birth certificate. The hard part is picking the name. Yeah.
Well, hopefully you've done that before you go into the office. You don't want to get the people in the office to ask you,
No,
what
well,
name do you think I should be called?
Yeah. People change their mind at inopportune moments. But yeah, so you've got to have your original copy of your original birth certificate before you can start anything.
Okay. And what about if you're changing your name from one sort of gendered name to another gendered name? Are there any restrictions on those sorts of things?
No.
Wow.
No, as long as it's not offensive.
Okay.
Yeah, the gender in itself, in simple terms, is not the issue.
Okay.
In all states and territories. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Okay, so what do we talk about passports? Because if you want to travel overseas, you want the gender marker that says what gender you are to be correct. So is it easy to change your passport?
Yes, you just need a letter from a GP and then appropriate documentation to go to the passports office, and it's based on affirmed identity since September 2011, which is really cool.
And are there more than 2 letters that you can choose from in Australia?
Yes, we have the option now of an X as well, and there is also, for our friends who identify as intersex, there's also greater respect for them as well. So yeah, passports have come a pretty long way.
Okay, so you need to get a letter from your GP.
Yeah.
Collect paperwork, go through all the fun stuff of applying for a passport, and
Yep.
it's relatively straightforward.
Yep, and an interview. They usually like to interview. I'm on my 3rd passport. So yeah, they like to make sure that you are who you are, and a quick talk, nothing too traumatic, just a quick talk. This is who you are, this is what you want to do. And yeah, you got the paperwork.
So with those 2 documents, we can pretty much survive with most of the things we need to do in society. We've got a gender marker in our passport, and
Yep.
our name is changed. Does it cost any money to change your name and gender in your passport?
Yes.
It does?
Yep.
Okay. And I suppose it costs money to change your name as well?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
there's a fee. There's a fee, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk about birth certificates, because I think birth certificates aren't quite as easy, are they?
No. Birth certificates are an official document that everything else revolves around. And the birth certificate's okay, but there's no death certificate for your old name. So you've got 2 birth certificates. Not on paper, they take one off you, but as written down, say at the tax department or something, you're 2 people.
Okay. And if you want to get a new birth certificate that's got your new name and your affirmed gender on there, what do you have to do?
You have to go through sex affirmation surgery in all states except for the ACT at this point.
Yep.
So the government has decided that that's what we need to do. We
Yes.
actually have to have surgery.
Yes.
So they've decided for us that if we want to change our sex or gender marker on our birth certificates, then we have to have surgery.
Yeah.
And it can only be changed on a state-by-state basis. So it's changed in one state so far, but in order to change the other ones, we would have to lobby each state individually to change the laws.
Because the birth, deaths and marriages legislation is state-based.
Yes.
Yes. So in order to change mine, I would have to get it changed in Tasmania, where I was born. So having it changed in Victoria wouldn't work for me.
Wow.
Yeah, the joys of our federal system. Have to do everything 8 times.
Yeah. And it's different for the 2 genders on what has to happen. For females turning to males, you have to have the chest surgery, you have to have the hormones first for so long that you actually look male. Then the chest surgery, and that's up to you and how you afford it. And then you have to have the full hysterectomy. You have to be sterilised.
Wow.
You cannot have men giving birth to babies. you must be sterilised.
Yeah. Very quickly, this came up, you know.
That's their logic and thinking, is
Yeah.
it?
Came up in a court case, or this sort of issues were raised in a court case that came out of Western Australia with two trans men, AH and AB, that went to the High Court. Their legislation, however, is worded a bit differently. Same and similar to South Australia, but the other 6 were all very much surgery based until the ACT changed. So yeah, a bit of work to do there for everyone around the country, including Victoria.
It's quite embarrassing as well for the generalisation that every trans person wants to have surgery, when in reality it's more like half and half. There are a vast number of trans people who, like myself, don't want to have surgery and wouldn't like to have surgery. I've had you know, back surgery and other things in my life, and it was a horrible experience, and I have no desire to go through bottom surgery or top surgery.
And I guess even if you did want to have surgery and you can't afford it, then that would
Yeah,
be
that's
another example, and lots of us can't afford.
A lot of people travel overseas and sometimes to countries where the laws might be a little bit more lax when it comes to surgery.
Yeah, and the out-of-pocket cost for a trans woman for that one operation, around $15,000, which, you know, as Robyn's rightly said, many of us don't have, and it's not fully covered by Medicare and or private. So
government-
that's another angle.
Our surgeries aren't covered either because they're dealt as cosmetic.
Yeah.
But and a hysterectomy is pretty full on.
It's very significant.
Yeah,
And-
but you have to have it for that. You know, there's a very few guys that have a male birth certificate. I have one, but I've had to be forced sterilised.
Wow. Just quickly, what about marriage? If 2 people are married and one of them transitions, are there any restrictions on them changing their birth certificate if they've gone through all the medical procedures and those sorts of things?
Yes, in I'm sure every state at the moment they have to be divorced to go through with their sexual reassignment,
Yeah.
because otherwise it would be classed as a gay marriage.
So you're happily married to someone,
Yep.
and you're lucky that you have a partner that's in love with you, and you have to separate for 12 months and not live with each other, and separate all your financials,
Yep.
and then get a divorce, and then you can get your new birth certificate.
Yeah, and effectively purge yourself in the family court, pay lawyers a whole heap of fees. Just because our marriage is stuck in the 1950s, it's a huge argument for full marriage equality for all Australian couples, trans and to some extent intersex, very much a strong argument for that.
Wow. Okay, so I guess in summary then, it's easy to change your name,
Yes.
it's easy to get a passport, and they're probably the most important documents that we need to manage. But birth certificates are a real problem and require intervention and all sorts of other things in order to get your birth certificate changed.
Yeah. It's
Wow.
a big decision for a piece of paper.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Sally, Robyn and Dale. I'm Sammy Cameron on transmission for Bent TV. Look forward to seeing you all next time.